Okay, we're ready. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hola. Well, thank you. You all very subtle, so we're gonna change this in a minute. So get ready because we're gonna move. It's important to also, move so those juices function better. Now, welcome to the 6 principles to guide our decisions, or I could have made my mind overall principles of design. Now, this is not a talk show, but a workshop, and we're going to do something slightly like this, and I'm clearly going to play the role of the cool lady wise in the middle, and you lot are the other two, right? And hopefully we get to a feeling of this. Okay. So I think it's important that we recognize that we all inventors, we invent things for a living. We shouldn't forget the creative part of the nature of the work that we do. And this is going to be a new territory, so I'm really going to need everyone's input. Get ready. So it may get messy, and that's okay. So what we're going to do to the core of this thing, in very simple terms, what we're going to do is a translation exercise, right? And that's what we do every day, essentially. We take ideas, concepts, and we make them functional, visible. And we do this with the tools, the skills, the information, the people that we have at hand. So that, in its core, is what we're going to do. Now, we have very, very little time. And we have 6 principles. So my aim is that we can play with 3, maybe 4. I doubt we get to 6. I'll go through the motions of the 6 anyway, just in case. But definitely to get some quality over 3, that will be worth. Also, as it may get a little bit messy, one thing that I found that works quite well to sort of bring everybody's attention so we can cover the next principle is that if you see me suddenly being very quiet with my hand up, just mimic what I'm doing. And if you see people doing this around you, do the same. And also enjoy to see how the room suddenly transforms. When I'm going to go through the principles, if there is anything in particular that you think, calls your attention, whatever clicks in your mind, just write it down quickly, because you're going to be using that content, into the translation exercise. Things will become more clear in a minute. We'll do some dynamics in groups, so be conscious to invite people in. So we can move from the very sort of reactive yes, but to a much more inclusive yes, and, so we can build upon each other's ideas. For me, it's like making a wonderful dish. The more flavors, right? Let's try to enrich each other's ideas with what we do. So invite other people in. All right. So to help us through the motions, we are going to use a variation of this liberating structure. That's essentially a structure that you do to organize yourself. And there is some other structures, if you want, in the link over there. In our spin, because of time, we're going to do this, the 1, 3, all. And how this works is that I'll go through the motions of one principle, give you some pointers. Then you will have 1 minute for one person, so for yourself, to think quietly. And if we think about it, we don't give enough time normally to ourselves to think by ourselves. Right? So we're going to do 1 minute, one person, then 3 minutes, 3 persons. So take the opportunity to grab 2 people you never spoke with yet. Right? You won't have time to introduce each other, that's okay, but at least you'll meet, and then you can do the introductions later. And then the all is that we all go back and learn from the institutional knowledge that is just building up in the room. That's essentially, and we'll get the mic around so we can all learn from what just happened in the subgroups. So far, so good? Fabulous. If you thought this was about agile, no, but don't worry, so you can get a free training with that link if that's of your interest. Now, today I'm wearing more like the bottom items hat, so who am I? I'm also a circular economy professional from Cambridge University, a biomimicry practitioner. We'll find out about that in a minute. Also wrote a book about sustainability, and I'm very involved with the Salesforce community, but also with the Agile community. And recently we launched the Sustainability Initiative. So that's a little bit more of the content that we're gonna cover today. So bear with me. So who has seen this before? No? All right, well, you'll find out. Because I want to introduce you a fresh perspective, a new lens to look at the world. So yes, in Salesforce, but yes, beyond that. And the grand reveal, this is the life principles. This essentially is 6 principles of biomimicry, which is mimicking bio, nature. And when we have a challenge, we tend, as a species, as a humans, we tend to think cognitively, and we think, oh, blank canvas, right? And create or try to solve that problem from nothing. So instead, what I want to give you this lens to look at the world, and you will see these patterns everywhere once you leave the room. I think it's pretty amazing. Now, how you do this is to tap into strategies, into mechanisms, into functions that have been evolving and refining themselves over 3.8 billion years. So that's experience, that's innovations. So why to start in a blank canvas? So that's our aim, and just going really quickly because of time. The top part of this talks to us about when we do designs, we should do it in a way that is locally attuned, so you are close to what's happening near you, so that you can adapt with that information, because the only constant is flux, so that we can evolve in a way that is dynamic, it's not static. The bottom bit is about being life-friendly. Like at its core, the life principles is how can we create conditions that are conducive to life. Like imagine if every decision that we take, we have that at its core, the world will be a very different place. And so it's life-friendly, it's efficient, and it's balanced. So, without further ado, principle 1, which is integrating that development with the growth. And nature does this by 3 different strategies. It's self-organized, builds from the bottom up, and uses modular and nested components. And these ideas, these strategies are things that we can put in place with the work that we do. But I'm gonna go through the motions into how does this look in nature, in teams, and then we'll play with the Salesforce version. Now, if you think about it, a tree doesn't just grow taller, also grows its roots. Right? It has this idea of nested, compartmentalized modules. Right? So how this idea perhaps could be translated into teams' behavior. And so what sort of came to mind, and I don't know if any of you have played with the idea of holacracy. So is this idea of a system of self-management that is not subject to a very rigid hierarchical structure of command. Instead, you use that self-organization, so building from the bottom up, and this idea of nested modular components, so that you can integrate that development with growth. One thing without the other, it just doesn't work really well. So, my question to you is how these 3 ideas can be applied into how we design Salesforce, the architecture, the patterns, the functionality, and the tools that we have at hand. And you have 1 minute for yourself. Okay, this is going beep, 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 beep. Okay, so that's 1 minute, 1 person. Now, take the opportunity to stand up, grab 2 people you've never spoken with yet, right? should try it. All right. Cool. So we've done the 1, we've done the 3. Now we're doing the all. So this is also your bonus swag, right? Use this facilitation structure at work. It's quite fun. So what have you discovered? What has become apparent? What are the things that we can tap into these 3 strategies in our day Salesforce life?
Commonality.
Tell me more.
Similarity. Shared experience.
What else? What else has bubbled up?
We all kind of had a similar theme, talking about like the systems and the data, some of the modular components, and thinking about Salesforce in that way. And I thought about a tree. So you got like the roots of the tree being maybe systems, or as my colleague, data. The top being like people and users. And they need to grow in parallel, or else your tree falls over, and you can't grow too fast.
Yeah. Who else? Who else? I mean, what you were just saying, sorry, makes me think about like the idea of the separation of concerns and unit of work, and how can we leverage these things so that we can grow in a way that, you know, it sustains.
I thought that an agile way of working kind of fits quite well with these things, because
I'm biased.
You start with groups of users rather than imposing something from the top, and then you build up something that works for each use case kind of thing.
Nice. What else? What else? Using common frameworks. I have to say this, Lightning design system, right? Tapping into existing modular components that we can enhance. Sorry.
Hello. I thought about the roots as technical enablers or architectural runway to support the functional capabilities up top. And then maybe at the physical level, packages as a way to organize your solutions.
Thank you. Are you ready? Round 2? Cool. Thank you. Thank you for playing. Okay, this is going to become a little bit easier as the rounds go around by the time that we have. So, principle number 2, which is being locally attuned and responsive, right? So we are aware of our close environment. And nature does this essentially by these only 4 things. It leverages cyclic processes, it uses ready available materials and energy, it doesn't go like really far to find these things. Uses feedback loops, and the shorter the better, so that you can make informed decisions if you're gonna persevere or if you're gonna pivot, right? And it really cultivates cooperative relationships. And now you may be thinking, maybe this is how this session is being designed. Yeah. So how does nature do this? I want to introduce you to something I find fascinating. So this is, my friend, slime mold. Okay, bear with me. It's lovingly referred as SpongeBob by scientists, but it's not a sponge, it's a slime mold. It's one single cell organism, and it always finds the optimal route. So for example, if you put it in a maze and you put a little oat in the middle, the single cell organism is going to find the best way to get to the food. It was also used to enhance the railway system in Japan, right? At scale. And the interesting thing is that it did not only enhance the current state, but also build redundancy in the system, meaning that if a line was closed or it was overcrowded, you could still get to destination. So imagine if we were building our designs with these things in mind. And this made me think, well, again, slightly biased, but cyclic processes, using availability of what you have, feedback loops, and those cooperative relationships made me think about Scrum. If we think about how can we apply these ideas in a way that you can enhance your behavioral team items. So, you know what's happening. Your minute starts now. Is this any better? Beep, 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 beep. All right, cool. So, everybody stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, right? Let's get the brain juices going. And now, this is your optimum opportunity to move beyond 2 meters, grab 2 people you haven't spoken with yet, and your 3 minutes starts now. We're becoming better at this, thank you. All right, so what did you discover? But it became a bit obvious. Any ideas? We have some at the back. Thank you. Come on.
We were, in a way, brainstorming from the perspective of defining maybe roles, because a lot of times understanding who does what is pretty basic, but a lot of times if nobody does it, it creates chaos along the way. And then going into how to do it in a cyclic way, we were thinking from the perspective of having a POC, having an MVP, and learn as you go, and have retro sessions, get feedback, understand, is it the right way? Should we try it? Should we continue? What did we learn so far? So creating this whole loop together with the right people and understanding the resources that you can benefit from along the way.
Who else want to share? Thanks.
Some of the things that we talked about, you start with an idea of check, plan, do, and then check, and then plan, and then do again. And we also talked about, and this is cheesy, my apologies, that there's more intelligence in the team and in the Ohana than there is in your head. Mm-hmm. So when you're checking and planning and doing, it's not just you, it's the people around you, and if you and be open. Don't kind of go, I just worked on this for 3 months, what do you think? You know, you do your show and tells, and you do that early. That helps you share with other people so they can learn from what you're doing, but also someone might look at that and go, that's not the way to do it, Nathaniel. Right? and then you can learn from that early and find an optimum path.
Thank you. Who else? Thank you.
Yes, so to add to that, I think in terms of multi-systems landscape, it would be good on the last point that we learn from other systems, say SAP or other marketing systems, like what are they doing? Maybe we could learn from their mistakes and not do the same mistakes when we do Salesforce side of things. So I think that was important. We also talked about using the app exchange solutions. So that could be rather than building it custom altogether bottom up. So that could be the second point readily available. Yeah, anything you want to add?
Thank you. Also makes me think about login framework, like that we put this in place in our instances in a way that we can have, available cyclic processes, and you get some telemetrics going on about how your instance is doing so you can learn from it. Or how far the data travels and traverses the internet. And so we have best practices around LWC and things. So they are very tangible things that we can put in place in our designs so that we make the most out of the strategies, because they all around us, right? We are governed by natural laws. So why invent something else? Are you ready for the next one? Okay. So principle of adapting to changing conditions, because the only constant is change. And nature does essentially this by 3 things. So incorporates diversity, maintains integrity through self-renewal, embodies resilience through mainly 3 things: variation, redundancy, and decentralization, right? I kind of touched on redundancy a little bit. We tend to think of it as a negative connotations, but redundancy matters, right? If somebody goes on holidays, what happened? And so how some of the examples here I wanted to bring is, well, our own body does it, right? Even sometimes what I hear is like, oh, you know, I need to get out in nature. You are nature, look at your hands. Your hands do these things, right? Diversity self-renews, right? When you cut yourself and stuff like that. And it has resilience built in. And when I was thinking, okay, what are the different things that I've done with teams to help us through adapting to changing conditions? And I don't know if you played with this, but dynamic reteaming is fabulous, right? So you can constantly adapt to what's needed rather than invented static structures. So question to you now, and your minute starts now, is how can we apply these strategies in our instances? Okay, everybody stand up. This is your last opportunity to speak with people that you haven't yet. Right, so what has bubbled to you? 3 minutes starts now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so what did you discover? What did we discover? What became apparent? Any ideas? How are you going to implement this?
Thanks. I didn't actually catch my teammate's name, Sarah. And one idea I hadn't thought of when we were talking as a three was the not always changing, not always doing, and letting yourself regenerate. So perhaps if you're going through periods, maybe the stress on your workers as well, you know, you're give a lot of energy to deliver, and sometimes it's good to build in periods of seeing what you have delivered, seeing if it's being used, and learning from that process.
Thank you. Some at the back.
Thank you. We were thinking from the perspective of creating the right space in a way for the right people, and we were talking about having, for example, separate apps. If you are on a specific area profiled and you need specific information, why get bombarded with information that maybe doesn't benefit you? This way you have that safe corner. We were talking also about having the roles and profiles defined clearly, having the clear validation rules and limits set, because this also doesn't create chaos. And in order to not create chaos, you gotta guide the way for the people that end up using it.
Thank you. And that's going to lead us to the next one. And now I'm just going to fly through, so bear with me. Also think about building recovery beyond one point of failure, right? So how can we make our own systems more resilient? And the principle of using life-friendly chemistry. And when we think of chemistry, it's slightly metaphorically, although I'm pretty sure that the atom level are stuff going on. And nature does this by breaking down in benign. So you were talking about validation rules. Sometimes like we can really poor uses. I mean, which kind of energy we're leaving behind. Build selectively with a small subset of elements. So yeah, we have that table of more than 100 elements, but essentially nature only uses very few combinations, and mostly 11 only of those. And also doing chemistry in water, meaning like at room temperature, which is very different to how one species we decided to do chemistry. And examples on this is like, think of a poison of a snake is generated on demand, just in time, in the right moment, in the right amount, and when the job is done, it breaks down in benign constituents. You don't need to increase your nuclear storage waste facilities year on year. I mean, like, we get some designs really wrong. Or the second picture over here, this is a sponge silica that can create glass fibers under water that will hold huge amount of pressure. How we create glass, very different. And then the last thing is all about bioplastics, and there's a lot of going on in this area at the moment. But yeah, it's this idea of building with what already exists. It made me think about momentum, right? Sometimes at work, especially on change, we can burn a lot of energy with a lot of resistance. Instead, let's be slightly more, take opportunity of momentum. Like if you have a leak, water flow always will go in the very easy path. So there are a lot of things for us to learn. What else do we have? It made me think about over-processing. Like we can make very heavy instances when sometimes, we should do more life-friendly chemistry. We talked about validation, rules and things like that. We could do prompts, other things that is slightly easier for our users. The principle of being resource efficient, which all these things are really interrelated, but if you think, they're essentially using low energy processes, multifunction design, right? One thing does more than one thing, upcycles everything and fits form to function. So here, a forest has a 2% of waste versus our cities, which is closer to an 80% of waste. And a forest does a lot of things. Holds up moisture, takes materials, creates a space for others to live. It gives food and shelter, right? Or the tardigrade water bear over here, right? That is being studied very close to help with vaccine logistics and transportation because it can go into a biocryptic state, doesn't use energy unless the conditions are conducive for function. Or a leaf. It breaks down, it becomes food and shelter, it doesn't become a leaf again, right? So how can we upcycle our materials? And this makes me think in terms of being resource efficient, fractal organizations are very similar, sort of breaking down to what's needed. Flying, and last but not least is the principle of evolve to survive. I like to call it evolve to thrive, right? So replicate what works and just drop what doesn't. Nature integrates the unexpected and reshuffles information, and it can do that by next generation, by cross-pollination in multiple different things. Think about neuroplasticity, our own brain self-generates, or that replication within teams. I try to break free. We can do things like pairing up, three amigos, buddy system, everything in between, right? Hopefully you feel a bit that, right? We stretch a little bit of the normal thinking, and I hope that when you're gonna have a challenge, just turn into this. How can we create conditions that are conducive to life? Right? How does nature solve this? There are a lot of mechanisms. If we had time, we could do many more things, but just try to pause for a second and think in a way that we can design better. And now, this area is really big, right? I did my best in 40 minutes, and thank you for playing. If you want more about biomimicry, scan this. I try to put some other resources and other things that I think are going to be helpful for you. Because we need all the help that we can to create a better way of functioning as a species. And we need all sorts of subject matter experts, right? Salesforcians and anything in between. And I really think that we can get there faster if we can support the people that are putting their time and effort and finance and are going for the cause. So let's be part of a solution and create a better tomorrow, not future, now. So I would really like to close off with this thought. This is home. All our conceptual inventions that doesn't support this home to thrive as a whole are flawed. There are no boundaries. We all breathe the same air. This is our home, which is not ours alone.
MarCloud is marketing automation for Salesforce. Our team of certified professionals can lead you on your Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud account engagement, and Marketing Cloud engagement journey. Implementation. At MarCloud, we can assist with new implementations and complex migrations. Templates and training courses. MarCloud offers on-demand training courses to help you on your Salesforce journey. Free account audit. Understand your platforms with our free account audit. support with ad hoc projects, manage and implement your Salesforce and Marketing Cloud goals on a one-off project basis. Ongoing consulting. Lean on MarCloud as an extension of your team during your Salesforce journey. Simply visit our website to learn more.